Hey guys, it is Thursday, so that means it's another edition of Modern Meta Breakdown. So, last week we were talking Soul Sisters. We've been bouncing around talking about a lot of different decks in the meta, seeing some really fun stuff lately, and some great suggestions have been coming our way. So, let's take a look, see what some people have been suggesting lately. So, of course, Madcap Imperium, Skred Red. Now we've got some people talking about elves they want to see. So lots of people requesting some decks to be discussed. And again, like I talked about last week, we are going to be hitting all the decks eventually. It's just a matter of time because there's so many fun decks out there in Modern to be able to be played. So we're going to be picking one of these three decks to discuss. And I've been looking around at some of the decks that have been placing lately, seeing some of the fun stuff going on. And I figured, you know what? This will be a good one to talk about. So, not elves this time, even though there's some sweet elves running around. And both are red decks. Which one's it going to be? Skred Red. I mean, if you clicked on the title, you knew already. But maybe you just stumbled onto this from previously. So we are going to be talking Skred Red this time, guys. Figured it would be perfect because a Skred Red deck, or just Skred deck, if you will, was able to get second place at the last Classic. So I figured, perfect. People have been requesting it. About time. Let's get it going and talk about it. So, boom. The Skred decks. So, of course, we have to highlight Skred first because it's namesake, right? For 1 red, Skred deals damage to target creature equal to the number of snow permanents you control. And it's pretty much the only deck in Modern that cares about snow-covered permanents. There's some people that are like, just flavor-wise, hey, I like having snow-covered lands. I'm going to run snow-covered lands. But no other deck really cares about having them besides the Skred deck. So it's basically saying, hey, I can destroy any creature with this. I don't care. I'm running 20 lands that are snow covered here. The likelihood that you're going to have something that's bigger than like a 5/5, a 6/6, 7/7, not likely at all. Now with Death Shadow running around, hey, maybe it is kind of likely, but they might not be able to cast that with some of the other hateful stuff this deck is running. And apparently there's a train, guys. That's just kind of how it works. I guess that's the name of the game tonight. So we're going to talk about the spells because that seems to be a big part of the Skred deck itself. So you can see it's a playset of our Skreds, playset of Lightning Balls, playset of Anger of the Gods. So here's our removal, here's our hate, that if you're running any creature-based strategy, this has a way to deal with it. Bolts can also go face, that sort of aspect of it. Then we've got some hate as well in the form of Blood Moon here. 3 main board. Oftentimes you'll see that 4th one in the side, but just a way to be able to say, hey, I've got all this removal available to me, and there's so many 3-color decks running around the format. I'm going to run Blood Moon. It plays in a way similar mindset to some prison decks in that regard of, hey, I've got Blood Moon in here, I can lock you out and prevent you from keeping a creature on board. So it's kind of a weird-esque prison deck. Not the normal stuff where it's like, hey, you're not going to be able to attack, like with Ensnaring Bridge and stuff like that, because this deck does care about attacking and playing some creatures. Which we'll talk some synergy with some of the creatures in a little bit. Relic of Progenitors here, Graveyard Hate, also pulls double duty because you do get a draw card off it. We've also got Mind Stone, same sort of thing. A little bit of ramp off it, and you can draw a card off it if need be. So the colorless mana aspect doesn't matter as much to it because you're playing basically 20 basics in there. But does help with the ramp there. You're playing that turn 2. You can ramp into one of your Planeswalkers by turn 3 then. So that's a nice little aspect. So let's talk again about the Planeswalkers. It's got 2 Chandra for this list here, which Torch of Defiance has been seeing a lot more play in Modern in these very specific decks, like the prison-based deck, like we talked about the Sun and Moon deck that was running around. But she does really well in this version. Cost 4 for a 4 loyalty Planeswalker. You can, there's 2 different +1 abilities here. You can +1 her, get 2 red added to your mana pool. So hey, you've got a Skred in your hand, but you don't have any more to tap for it because you've just tapped out to play Chandra. Guess what? You can still play that. Man, that train is going ham. They really want people to know, get out of the way, guys. I'm coming through. Other ability is just some direct damage added in there. Exile top card of your library. You may cast that card. If you don't, Chandra Torch of Defiance deals 2 damage to each opponent. So most of the time, if you are doing that the first turn you play, or you're just trying to go face, don't care about ramping into anything, and don't care what the top card gets flipped is. Also, she can kill off a creature too. Does have that little protect herself slightly in the sense that she does 4 damage to target creature for a -3 there, so she'll go down to 1 loyalty. Emblem though is amazing if you can get there. If you've got the protection, which you should with all the spells you run, it shouldn't be that hard. But you get an emblem with whenever you cast a spell, this emblem deals 5 damage to target creature or player. So every time you're casting a spell, just boom, 5 to face, 5 to face, 5 to face. So anytime you want, Lava Axe all day. Koth the Hammer is our other one. Pretty much the only deck that is running Koth consistently in Modern. Because it cares about mountains, guys. 4 cost, 3 loyalty Planeswalker, +1 ability, untap target mountain, becomes a 4/4 red elemental. Until the end of turn, still a land. But a 4/4 is pretty solid when you think about it. And saying, hey, I tapped out to play Koth. Well, now I've got 1 red open, so I can lightning bolt you, I can Skred you, do some fun stuff like that. -2, get 1 red to your mana pool for each mountain you control, so you can ramp into something again. And the emblem for Koth is pretty sweet too. You really only need to uptick twice before you can ultimate him. And that's, you get an emblem with mountains you control have tapped. This deals 1 damage to target creature or player. So hey, you've got 5-6 mountains out. Boom, every turn that you're not doing something and they're saying, okay, pass turn, boom, every mountain now deals 1 damage. So pretty nice aspect of it if you're going that Planeswalker style. So there's our Planeswalkers. Let's talk our creature base here. P and Kira makes sense. Hey, you're running red. You want some evasion added in here. You want some way to deal damage with it. This is the guy and girl for you here. 2/2 for 4, legendary creature. When they enter, you get 2 1/1 colorless Thopters with flying, and you can pay 3, sack an artifact. Doesn't have to be a Thopter. And you are running Mind Stone, you are running Relic of Progenitus, you have some other artifacts you can fling their way. So pay 3, deal 2 damage to our creature or player. When I was playing on Monday, I'm currently playing a Kiki chord list right now. I'm playing it for 2 weeks now. I actually won a match based on having P and Kira out, doing 2 damage, and having a bolt in hand to finish my opponent off. So that P and Kira 2 damage can be kind of relevant there. So keep that in mind. Running 2 there. Storm Breath, amazing card when you think about, hey, Path to Exile's so great. A lot of people like to run white in Modern, and they just easily run a playset of that. And having your top end big creature be protected against that is great. Flying, haste, protection from white, 4/4. And most white creatures do have flying when you think about it. There's some, of course, exceptions to that, but when you're thinking about things that could get in the way of this, most likely would be white in Modern that are flying. So having that aspect is nice. And he does have the ability to become monstrous if the game goes really long and it's kind of dragged out, or you're using some ramp off of Chandra, ramp off of Koth, however you want to get that to 7 mana, get 3/+1 counter, so he becomes a 7/7 for 7 mana, and he deals damage to each opponent equal to the number of cards in their hand. So there is that aspect of it. We've also got our Simian Spirit Guide, which is essentially just say, hey, remove this from the game and cast one of your spells quicker. Cheat out that Blood Moon a little bit quicker, cheat out your Planeswalker a little bit quicker. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff that the Simian Spirit Guide adds to this list here. You can even cheat out Storm Breath or something else a little bit quicker. Hey, I really need that anger now against an affinity player. Cool. Turn 2, you've dumped your hand already. now I'm just going to board wipe you, essentially. And one of our newest additions to the Skred Red deck that does pair really well with Anger of the Gods, and does pair really well with those relics of Progenitus, is our Eternal Scourge. 3 mana for 3/3 Eldrazi Horror. And you can cast it from exile. So that's why I said it does pair well with that relic. Exiling all cards from everyone's graveyards. Cool. You can cast that for 3 anytime. Anger of the Gods, dealing 3 damage to each creature. If a creature dealt damage this way, would be this turn would die. Exile it instead. Cool. I'll exile that and cast it from exile. The other thing, though, whenever he becomes the target of a spell or an ability an opponent controls, exile him. So you can, have to deal with that a little bit if you have him early on and be like, okay, here's my only creature right now. I've got a lot of removal, and my opponent has a lot of removal. They're flinging stuff at me. They're going to exile my Eternal Scourge when maybe I wanted him to block. Maybe I wanted to attack with him. But later on, again, this deck does well if it gets dragged on and the match goes a little while, and your opponents have really used up a lot of their resources. So that's kind of what the deck is designed to do, is fight in those sort of situations. So lands real quick, talk about the sideboard, then we'll talk about our second Skred Red deck. So, hey, 20 snow-covered mountains, who would have guessed? Pretty sweet looking art for it. That's kind of consistent. You're going to be seeing a lot of snow-covered mountains in here. Now, this next land here is newer edition. Some people have tried them out. Variants on preference on how many numbers you want, but I think it is really good addition to this deck. Our scrying sheets here, Snowland, so it does count towards Skred because it is a permanent with snow, I guess is what, snow permanents you control. Snowland there, tapped for a colorless, or you can pay 1 and a snow permanent there. So using another scrying sheets, using a snow-covered mountain, look at the top card of your library. If that card is a snow, you may reveal it and put it into your hand. So, hey, do I have a land on top? Cool, I'm just going to add it to my hand. Otherwise, oh, cool, I got to see what's my next top card. And really kind of play around how you want to do things. Now, you can't really manipulate the top of your deck too much, with the exception of Torch of Defiance. That might come in handy. So, just a little bit of added thing, but just knowing your next draw and setting things up and really thinking long term, which this deck loves to be able to do. So really like that addition into this deck. And if you like that kind of long grindy matchups where you can really excel and just all about the creature hate, this is a deck for you. Might bother some people because of the Blood Moon, does have that sort of hate, but it is a really fun deck when you think about the grindy aspect of it. Sideboard set up nicely, of course, Dragon's Claw, or if you think Koth's little belt buckle there. No, it's not. I'm just kidding. But Pithing Needles in here, 2 Pithing Needle, 1 Pyrite Spell Bomb in there, Ratchet Bombs, more Simian Spirit Guides, another Blood Moon, Boils in here, which is sweet, destroy all islands, Crumble to Dust is in here, there's choose non-basic land, exile it, and then you search target player's graveyard, hand, library for all of those. So you're saying, hey, I'm playing against Eldrazi Tron, I'm playing against Tron. Cool, I'll get rid of that. Tron piece. Awesome. Shattering Spree, another way to kind of deal with artifacts. Shatterstorm's also in there, and Vandal Blast. So these are like, hey, I need some dedicated artifact hate set up there. And again, lots of hate set up in this whole thing. We're thinking about the Ratchet Bombs, we're thinking about the Spell Bombs here, so extra Blood Moons, some Boils, ways to ramp into that. Really hateful deck, and sideboard setup really for it. 2 Pithing Needles here, kind of want to go a little bit more control-y, more reactionary, a little bit more protection in that regard. Maybe you're playing against a lot of Planeswalkers, stuff like that, maybe against Ink Moths. Choose those, different things you can decide to kind of target off of there. And then, hey, mirror matchup or something like that, or you need a little bit more life for this particular matchup, Dragon's Claws are perfect to come in. All right, sliding over, slight variations on the next list, but still very, very close. And you can see the numbers: 9 creatures, 6 Planeswalkers, 22 lands, 23 spells. 5 creatures, 6 Planeswalkers, 23 lands, 26 spells. So just did that slight jump. hey, I'm going to add a new spell in here, essentially. And slight difference in the numbers of spells that they opted for. So, this list, a little bit shorter on creatures, 2 Eternal Scourge, 1 Storm Breath, 1 Pian Cure. So, they shaved down on 1 Storm Breath, which is fine, you know. Where they are in their meta, where things are going, that's kind of where they want it to be. Maybe didn't put as much emphasis on that. And they opted for another 5-drop that we'll talk about when we go to the spells. Planeswalkers is still the same. Chandra, Koth, 20 Snow-Covered Mountains, and 3 Scrying Sheets. So, saying, you know what, I really like that kind of ability to look at my top card. So, I'm opting for a 3rd one in here. Now, not as many Angers main board here, and we saw like our last list ran a full play set there, also ran 3 Eternal Scourge. This one's only running 2 and 2 Anger of the Gods, but it's opting for some other options here. Pyroclasm is in here, deal 2 damage to each creature. Still has, of course, the play set of Skred. I mean, you're running the Snow-Covered Mountains, you're running red, why would you not run Skred? 1 Magma Jet is in here, so a little bit more deck manipulation available there with the Scrying. So it does have that also with the Scrying Sheets. Just a little bit of fun aspect in there. 4 Bolts, 4 Blood Moon. So compared to the other one, only ran 3 Blood Moon, 1 side. This is opting for the full play set there. Again, the 4 Relics, 1 Ratchet Bomb main board, Mind Stone, Ramp, Draw Spell. Cool. And here's our new 5-drop. Opting, instead of a 2nd Storm Breath, a Batterskull. Maybe feeling that the life is more important there. And hey, who doesn't want to throw a Batterskull onto a Stormbreath Dragon? Even onto another evasive creature here, like your Thopter from Pian Cure. Like, there's some sweet stuff you could do with the Batterskull and equipping it and things like that. Or just, hey, here's a 4/4 Vigilance and Lifelink initially. Sweet. I'll take it. So, I love decks that run Batterskull anyway, so I really like the way that he's gone with this list. You know, definitely choosing for a different route, just slight variance, and you can see where the flex spots are now just between those 2 decks. Having a playset of Bolt, having a playset of Skred, Mind Stones, Relics make the most sense. Those you're going to have. Anger of the Gods, you need the Angers in there. There's going to be decks where you're just going to, you know, have that and be able to win. Otherwise, it's going to be a little bit tougher. But seeing that, hey, I don't need a playset based on what I'm facing, how my meta is shaping up, a Pyroclasm, a Magma Jet, and there's fine. And doing that alternate route. Also, I have access to a Ratchet Bomb as another way to just kind of destroy things. So, opting for those routes, perfectly reasonable, depending on how flexible you want your deck to be. Sideboard again, double Dragon Claw, a Spell Bomb, another Ratchet Bomb. Trinisphere is an interesting one that he's added in here. So cost 3, as long as this is untapped, each spell that would cost less than 3 mana to play costs 3 mana to play. You know, just a little interesting aspect. Hey, that Lightning Bolt now costs 3. You know, so just another like hateful card that can be added in there. Not something that is the most common thing to see. Most people are not playing around Trinisphere, if you will. But decks that are very light on lands, that's going to have effect on them. So we do have another creature on the board here, Magus of the Moon, another hateful guy that he can add in, saying, you know what, Josh here really loves the Blood Moon effect. He's got 4 main board, and he's got Magus in the sideboard here. Cost 3 for a 2/2 non-basic lands or mountains. Hey, he's a Blood Moon there with legs, essentially. So another Anger in the sideboard, 3 Molten Rain, 1 Roast, and 2 Shattering Spree. So instead of, you know, taking the exile all those non-basics, I'm going to opt for destroy a land, and if that land's non-basic, I'm going to deal 2 damage. So playing more of that damage is more important than the exiling effect, which is fine, you know, how people want to play. Roast, we saw Roast every now and again pop up, depending on how the meta is looking. Deal 5 damage to a creature without flying. It's fine. You know, solid removal spell for red. Like, we're paying essentially 1 and 4 life to do -5/-5 to a creature in a lot of different decks. Dismember is great. So, paying 2 to deal just 5 damage to a creature without flying is perfectly reasonable. The other one, we've got some more Artifact Hate. A little bit less in this version than the previous. Again, depends on the meta, what's going around. So here's at least 2. Shattering Spree does have that replicate ability, so you can just pay into it more than once and copy it a couple of times. Destroy target artifact. Simple and easy. But again, if you want a deck that thrives as the game progresses, as your opponent's running out of gas and struggling to land a threat because you're constantly killing it, this is the deck for you. Because you go just straight up hate mode on all creatures, land a Planeswalker or 2, continue to just hate out all their creatures, and the game just kind of grinds to a halt usually when you're like, well, we're both running out of gas, but you've got all the power on your side right now because of that one Planeswalker. Your live draws of removal spells are great. When you top into a Pia and Akira, you get Eternal Scourge that you can cast later in the game. Like, the deck just thrives in that sort of environment there. So definitely something that is a fun deck to pilot if you like this sort of strategy. You know, like that mass removal style. I mean, red's a great color for you. It is not the cheapest deck to get into, though, when you think about Blood Moons and things along that nature. But for the most part, if you're a fan of red, you're a fan of being able to play more grindy Magic and don't want to just go into like a control route with blue, recommend going for something like this. So yeah, there's our Skred Red. Really appreciate the suggestions that people have been given out, and let me know what other sort of decks that you guys want to see. I love hearing all your guys' comments and thoughts about how the video series have been going. It is going to be a continual thing every Thursday. We started uploading more videos at the beginning of the week. Started up with some Minecraft stuff. We're going to be doing Heroes of the Storm, Hearthstone, StarCraft, all that stuff, back at it and getting into it again. Maybe one of these days we'll do some Warcraft 3 stuff too. Just kind of rotating around to some of the games that I really enjoy playing besides Magic, because that is pretty much most of my week is devoted to Magic. But every now and again I do like to play other games and do other stuff, so we started to upload more of that coming your way. If you guys have not checked out the live coverage of Modern Magic Mondays, please do so. It is live every Monday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, and then uploaded to YouTube throughout the week for your guys' viewing pleasure. You guys can check out all that stuff at Modern Magic Mondays, with the exception of our Twitter is at Modern Mondays. Simple and easy. But if you just Google search Modern Magic Mondays, you'll find it. Of course, I'm NanMan, the real NanMan. You guys search for my stuff. Eventually, we're going to get back into streaming. For now, it's just going to be more focused on YouTube, and my streaming stuff is going to be devoted to Modern Magic Mondays. So you guys can head around, check out all that kind of stuff. But, you know, I think that's the main stuff. Doing more podcasts, doing all that kind of good stuff. So, again, best kind of stuff to find what I'm working on is Twitter and YouTube, Twitch, all those kind of avenues of information. But I always tweet about what sort of projects that I'm working on. But that's going to do it here for our Skred Red video of Modern Meta Breakdown. I hope you guys have been enjoying the series, and I'll see you guys next game.